past 8 o'clock. So if you're not back by
No.
8, then we might be gone by then. So
I'll be back. Okay.
sounds good. So basically, let's just go do a quick round of introductions and hellos. I'm Cindy Black. I'm the interim campaign director, and I'm here in Shoreline. I almost said Seattle. I'm in Shoreline, Washington. Georgia, I'm just going to call people out. Georgia?
Yes, Georgia Davenport. I'm in 9 Mile Falls, Washington, which is north of Spokane.
And she's the field coordinator in Eastern Washington. And you all know her from Initiative 1600, which she ran that thing. So she started this whole thing. You can blame her for this. Justin.
Oh, okay, Justin. I am 175% in for, doesn't matter if you call it 1600 or 5222 or fucking Saskatchewan in Washington, now, but it's my thing. And I'm eating mandarins and happy to see you all.
Great. Shonda.
Hi guys, Shanda Mazda, Clallam County, Sequim, Washington. I've been in the fight for Medicare for All for a long time, but in November, my husband had a heart attack at the age of 43 and had to have a double bypass because of 9 years of rationing insulin. So the fight hit home even closer. So I'm even more fired up. I'm ready to get out there. Let's get these signatures. Let's make this happen.
Great. Leah?
There we go. I'm Leah. I'm down in Vancouver, Washington, and I've been a longtime supporter of Medicare for All. I'm like Shonda. My husband had a heart attack a little over a year ago, triple bypass. So quadruple.
Okay.
And again, we don't have health care. My daughter had to get Apple to get health care. So that's why we're fighting it for everybody.
Why don't you have your husband introduce himself there too?
I'm her husband,
What's your name?
Steve. And I'm also the chair of the 49th LD, which means I haven't been doing much lately because we can't do anything.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Courtney?
Hello, Courtney Love. I'm in Tacoma, Washington, and been fighting the good fight for a bit.
Great. Mark?
Pardon me, I'm in the middle of eating dinner, so if I'm not staring at the camera, that's why.
No.
Anyway, I'm Mark Prue. I'm in Des Moines, Washington, and looking forward to seeing what we can do despite the various obstacles we now face.
Great. Sarah? Go ahead and take
Hi, I'm Sarah De La Fuente, and I'm here in Vancouver, Washington, and I'm a strong supporter of Medicare for All. I don't know what to say, just that.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
Sean?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Sean. I'm an apprentice electrician in Seattle, Washington, and I recently just got laid off from my job for 2 weeks because we've had 3 COVID patients test positive. So we're just closing down shop for 2 weeks. But in worst case scenario, I don't go back to work for a couple of months, and our union healthcare only lasts for about 3 months until we'd have to start paying into COBRA. So my fight's so that we can leave a job site that's unsafe, or if we get hurt for an extended period of time, that we still have healthcare.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
And add to that all the admin costs of people changing jobs and having to change things. And then with ACA, we have to change sometimes every year. So thank you for that point.
Yeah, it's a mess right now when people lose their jobs and lose their health care. It's a mess. It's already a mess. That would make it a bigger mess. Amber?
I am up in Mount.
Oh, you just muted yourself.
Well, she didn't want us to know where she lived.
Go ahead and unmute yourself and then
You can
talk.
hear me.
There you go.
Anyway, I was laid off yesterday from my construction administrative role, much like Sean, but I am a non-union employee. So my healthcare runs out at the end of the month, and I have become one of the Medicaid for All people. I also do medical billing on the side. I have been almost bankrupt by healthcare. I am on the Progressive Caucus, 39th LD Executive Board, and in the second Congressional District presently. All things.
Yeah. No,
And our revolution.
yeah. Sorry to hear that.
Woo!
Hey.
Andre.
Hello. Let me get my camera on. Hey, so I'm Andre. I am normally from Belltown, Seattle, but I'm spending most of quarantine up in Snohomish, and I've been involved with Whole Washington's social media and am going to be taking on some outreach efforts pretty soon. So you might hear more about that.
Great. Thank you. Kim.
Hi, hello. I'll try video, but it probably just does a still shot of me. We've been having issues. I'm in West Richland in the Tri-Cities, so kind of out here in the sticks, and all the Zoom meetings I've been on lately, like nobody can see me, or it's just the weird still shot. So anyway, I stumbled onto Whole Washington about a year ago, and I just think it's a great idea. And you know, my ex-husband is an electrician, Sean. I'm looking at you, and I'll tell you,
He's a real electrician.
He's a real electrician. He is laid off. He's in Seattle, and he's laid off now because, you know, of COVID. And I will tell you that a couple of months is not worst case scenario. Worst case scenario for us was like 2 years of him being out of work. And so you do lose your health. You, of course, as you know, you lose your benefits. Our daughter is on his work policy now, but if he loses his benefits, then she'll have to go to Apple, which we've done once before. But so yeah, it's just, it's crazy. I'm disabled, so I'm on Medicare, but yeah, that's our story.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. Lisa.
Yeah, okay. I'm here in Seattle, and I am one of the lucky ones that still has my job. I work for a clinical laboratory, so we're one of the essential businesses that are staying open right now, even though we've had 2 employees test positive. But I'm getting to work from home, and I'm mostly just around my house in Seattle, taking care of things and trying to do as much as I can with my campaigning. So
great.
Happy to be here.
And then Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Fielding. I'm in Tacoma, Washington. I am a craniosacral therapist, and I am not working at the moment, as the chiropractic clinic that I work at is, of course, mostly closed down at the moment. My husband is on furlough. I missed the first part, so I don't know what all that we were supposed to answer. I've been, I'm knitting, and I'm happy to be here on the call. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, thanks everybody. I know everyone's going through a variety of different challenges right now with job situation, healthcare situation. I myself still have my full-time job with Fixed Democracy First, but I don't have healthcare through my job. In fact, I've lived for years without healthcare. So it'd be nice to actually have that, or I have to wait till I'm 65 before I qualify for something. And I would prefer not to wait that long to get healthcare. So I think we're all in this because we realize now more than ever, I think this whole situation we can take a look at and say, if this situation doesn't show the need for healthcare, universal healthcare system, I don't know what will. The fact that people are losing their jobs, losing their healthcare, people getting sick and not sure if their insurance is going to cover them or not. Are they going to get a bunch of co-pays, or people like me that are uninsured? and others that have lost their health care, getting bills of, tens of thousands of dollars afterwards if you ended up getting sick. So this is a really big deal. And it also shows, I want to point out the coordination of our healthcare system, the lack of coordination for a privatized healthcare system. You can see that across the board where everybody doesn't know what everybody's doing. Even in the state, getting private enterprises to coordinate around these issues and to have enough equipment and to take care of people and who's going to go where. And for myself, I looked at if I got sick and if I don't have health insurance and I don't even have a regular healthcare provider, who do I contact if I do get sick? And I ended up calling the COVID hotline twice. I emailed them. I never got really a straight answer from anybody. I finally got called to King County and got referred to the chat program, which finally told me you can call this clinic. But it took 3 phone calls and 3 emails before somebody told me what to do. So I just wanted to point out the lack of coordination too that's going on. So with all of that said, let's talk about what we're going to do about this. Whole Washington is actually at a point now where we wanted to run an initiative this year, but unfortunately the virus is interfering with that. What we're doing, George, I want you to talk a little bit about what you signed up, the pledge to sign petition we started, and then we want to talk a little bit about where we might be going from here. Georgia?
Yeah, so I actually had a really great conversation with John Grant, who ran for city council in Seattle a few years back, and he helped with the minimum wage initiative 3 or 4 years ago, which passed. And then he's also helping with the Tax Amazon initiative. And they are going through the same things that we're going through right now, is trying to figure out how to proceed when you can't collect signatures in person. And after our conversation, I think both of us kind of came away with the same ideas going forward, which is to do a pledge to sign. And we have launched that now on our website, but we haven't started really pushing that out. That's what we're going to do coming this week, is a pledge to sign. So even if we aren't able to collect signatures in person this year, we'll have a really good database of people who have signed up to people are asking me to admit them into the room while this is happening, so apologize for the distractions. But a database full of people that they will actually sign the petition when we print them out. So that's one thing we're doing. Also, we are launching a campaign to pressure Jay Inslee to pass the initiative without us even having to gather any signatures. So, and that's tomorrow. We're going to have a healthcare happy hour. You can drink beer, margaritas, kombucha, whatever, hot tea, and just hang out with us for an hour. And we're going to be calling the governor, his staff, to ask them to pass a nonprofit universal healthcare system, preferably the Whole Washington Health Trust. And we have a lot of reasons why he should pass this bill specifically. So we're still going forward full throttle. We want this to pass one way or another. And if we can't do the initiative this year, we're going to be really in good shape to do it next year. I'm happy to take questions. I'm sorry, there were lots of messages coming in while
Georgia, why don't you go ahead and put the link to that in the chat window, the link to the petition to sign, and good to get feedback from the group to see if there's anything we should add to that before we do the full-on promotion. What's good about this, I signed it today because I wanted to see what it looked like, but it asks for everything, including your address, information, email. So we also get a lot of contact data from people. Sean, you have a question?
Me? Oh, no.
I thought your hand was up, sorry.
I was just stretching out.
You were
I'm just
just
stretching out.
stretching, no problem. The other thing I wanted to talk about is in the middle of all of this, because I also work for Fixed Democracy First, so I'm on other mailing lists, and there's a whole other group, and the tax people have contacted me too, about the electronic signature gathering. And so there's several organizations now that are interested in pursuing this, not just whole Washington. So we have a conference call next week to discuss it. There's some people that are resistant to it because they're concerned about like Tim Eyman initiatives moving forward really quickly. So there's going to be some discussion between some of the people that are part of the Washington Voting Justice Coalition and other folks that are interested in like the King County Bar Association and such. John, did I see, was that up? Yes.
Yeah. So so Cheryl Ann brought this issue up in the last meeting, and Georgia asked me to call the governor's office and the Secretary of State in regard to this online petitioning thing. And the Secretary of State got back to me and told me that, one, there isn't going to be any extension for when the ballot signatures are due or a change in the number of ballot signatures required. They're not, at this time, they're not allowing online petitioning, but they are going to allow to stay in compliant with the stay at like home safe that Inslee has talked about, allowing us to send PDF files to people who want to sign, and then they would have to print it out themselves and sign. Now the sheets don't have to be like, I can send you guys the email that they gave me.
Yeah, I had the same conversation with them, so I got the same information, and so I have that as well. So yes, and when I had a further discussion with them about the size of it, they referred back to the RCW and basically still had to meet those requirements. So it doesn't make our job a whole lot easier right now.
Makes it harder, I think.
Yes.
Because first you have to find, 320,000 people to sign in the first place. But now you got to find 320,000 people with printers that can print a size that allows our measure to be on it.
Exactly, and that is a big issue for us. So that's why a group of us are trying to see if there might be some option. In fact, Zach Hudgens introduced a bill in 2018 for electronic signature gathering for initiatives in referendum, and it got a public hearing in the state government committee, but it didn't go much further than that. And it didn't go anywhere in the 2019 or 20, so it didn't get reintroduced in the 2019 session. So it kind of died in the 2018, but we're revisiting that bill and taking a look at it right now and getting some legal advice to see, is this something the governor might be able to put through as an emergency measure in order for groups like us to be able to set up online petitioning gathering if it met requirements for, for the Secretary of State. The problem is there's several parts of the initiative process that are done through the state constitution, and you would need to amend the state constitution and make changes like how many signatures you have to gather and other things like that. So we're running up against it. And so like Georgia said, we are going to still move forward and try to get these pledge signatures, because if we're able to get the pledge signatures and for some reason down the road they switch to, okay, now you can collect electronic signatures, we can go back to these people and get a legit one, right? Or we have them in our database for next year and do it that way. So either way, we benefit from doing it that way. Georgia?
Yeah, and so what Tax Amazon is doing is they are telling people to sign online with the electronic signature, and then what they're going to do is send people petitions their home address. That's their strategy. That's probably not something we can do since we're a statewide campaign unless we somehow found $1 million. But it will be helpful in the future if we can send people petitions that way.
And that we were planning on doing that anyway with that, because we, getting them out there is important and mailing them to people. But the reality of getting that many signatures back, regardless of how many we sent, say if we sent one to every voter in the state, would we get that, necessary number coming back, which is about 8%? We don't know. That's a real gamble. And it's so expensive to do that. It's just cost prohibitive. So again, we have to move forward and do some other things. I do want to mention a couple other things real quick about the campaign staff. Right now, Georgia, myself, and our fundraiser, Masha, are all working as volunteers now. Masha we basically said, it doesn't make sense to keep her on at this point. But she was she was eligible to collect unemployment and made sense for her, but she wanted to stick around to be a volunteer. So she's going to be our volunteer fundraiser for the time being until we can move forward and be able to hire her back. I am also working as a volunteer now. Georgia's working as a volunteer. So we no longer have any paid staff except for Andy Lowe, our bookkeeper, which is necessary to keep him on. Sean, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so does that mean at this point we're not going to file and we're going to do this pledge to sign? Where's our current standing? Where are we going?
We are going to still file. Georgie, you want to address that?
Yeah, sure. And I want to just also point out that Courtney, I think, has a question too. So I'll answer Sean's question real quick, and then Courtney, you can unmute yourself. But yeah, we're going to file, and if for no other reason, just to get polling on our new initiative title and summary, but we will file. It only costs like $15 to file, so there's no reason to not file. So in the case that we get a lot of people who pledge to sign or big events start happening again, we will be ready to print petitions. We'll still be able to do that. It's just not looking very good for this year. So, but we will file, definitely.
And there are new potential donors too, I want to add, that people we signed to pledge.
Okay.
Courtney?
So one of the things that our revolution has been talking about at the state level, and then Tacoma DSA is also picking up, is the concept of organizing within your neighborhood. The one thing we're supposed to do is be checking on our neighbors. That's what we're allowed to do, is check on our neighbors. We can practice best social distancing practices, knock on the door, step off the porch kind of thing. So if this is a really good project for precinct committee officers and coalition supporters of whole Washington who are willing to do neighborhood organizing, but we could, we could call on the precinct committee officers of the Democratic Party to, as they're checking on their neighbors, practice safe hygiene signature gathering if and when it comes to it. So there would be a point person instead of just being mailed out to everybody. But anyway, something to consider.
Yeah, I think we have to consider all those type of options right now and thinking outside the box of how we can do this. I think we're moving forward. We're going to file. We're going to get the pledged signatures, at least for now. But we are not going to print anything, mainly because we don't have the money to print anyway, until we know for sure that it looks like we're going to be able to do in-person signature gathering. If we're not, then it makes no sense, and we'll just continue to do this electronic pledges until next year. Questions, other questions from people? George?
Joanne has her hand up.
Go ahead, Joanne.
Hi, yeah, I just kind of, it's more kind of just thinking if there's any mailing done. It seems like it might be, and I don't know if, forgive me because I don't know what the state constitution looks like or the RCW when it comes to initiatives and signature gathering, but I'm wondering if there would be an opportunity to send a postcard with with like the basic information with a link to the entire initiative, and then folks could they could go online and acknowledge that they've read it, and then they send the postcard back with their signature instead of having a gigantic petition, or sorry, the whole initiative sent, because that is really expensive. Sending postcards is much cheaper. I'm wondering if there's a way, and again, I'm just kind of spitballing, brainstorming out loud here, that we could utilize a mail option that would be a postcard plus online, something like that.
Yeah, we would have to amend the state constitution for that one, unfortunately, because.
Oh, well, let's just do it then.
I know. I mean, we need to do that, but
time. Why not just go for it?
We can't just whip that up, I wish we could.
Right? It'd be so nice, wouldn't it?
Let's just whip up a U.S. State or a state constitution amendment real quick.
Right.
I wish. I mean, those things obviously take years. We're hoping to get an emergency declaration to allow us to be able to fulfill at least those requirements from the governor. We think that the governor might be able to declare some type of an emergency where it might be able to adapt that. So we're getting legal people to look into that. So I'll know more next week after we have our meeting where people have some discussion and we got some lawyers looking at it. But until then, we're just trying to look for loopholes. How can we get through this and have some alternatives? And so luckily there's more and more people coming on board that's interested in this. It's not just us anymore. And it's not just Amazon tax people. There's about a half a dozen organizations that are interested in doing more of this. And they're all wanting to figure out what's next. Because if this goes into the fall, it's a big issue. The other big thing is obviously the election coming up in November. That's such a big deal. A lot of people are more focused on that and making sure that happens. And this issue, unfortunately, it's still very important right about now. It's not getting that kind of attention it needs to. And maybe that's part of our campaign, is pushing that and, making it at the forefront like we should. Amber, did you want to say something?
Yes, I have a few things from my hot tub in the backyard.
I know, at first I thought, is that her background? And then I realized you were actually in the hot tub.
This is one of my COVID security measures because I can't seek the therapy that will not be afforded to me under my Medicaid for All, which I had to sign up again for my family last night after being laid off. So I also do medical billing, and I think this is the perfect time to advocate that we are not on a Medicare for All scenario, but everybody is going to be eligible for Medicaid. And most people don't understand what that means. And as being a billing specialist, I can help with that messaging. But it's also an opportunity that we can do things like socially distance protest from our vehicles across the state. If on a given day, time, hour with messaging, that we can make a huge impact. And so I would highly advocate for those type of radical movements right now, because everybody is in this situation. I had an amazing plan as of yesterday afternoon where my family was 100% covered for the first time in my life for me and my 2 kids. And now my, of course, healthcare is ending at the end of the month, pending my layoff.
Yeah, that's we're hearing that over and over, and I think that's not getting out. I mean, I'm hearing just when I'm looking at the news every day, I'm looking at the headlines, I'm seeing very little about people losing their health care and losing their jobs. We're not hearing enough about this. Like, look on this call. How many people just on this call alone are facing that, right? Can you imagine the numbers out there? And it's not getting any press whatsoever, or not enough, at least. Georgia.
Yeah, so as many of you know, I have an 8-year-old and I'm very, very busy with homeschooling as a result, but I still managed to take the time yesterday to write up 200 words to the Seattle Times. Well, actually, at first it was 400 words, and they said they weren't going to publish my op-ed, which is allowed to be like up to 600 words. But they did say that they might publish a letter to the editor for words. So hopefully they will publish that, and I've gotten an email back already that said, please give us your city so we can, if we do publish it, we can publish the city that you live in. I think it's good. That's a good sign. Anybody on the call can just take half an hour to write a letter to your editor or an op-ed. Be sure to use any titles that you have, a personal story. We're from all over the state on this call. So if you submit it to any local paper, why you support Whole Washington, why it's important to get universal nonprofit, that's key, because Inslee, you know, the thing he passed or tried to pass last year was the HCA contracting with for-profit insurers. So make sure that you highlight nonprofit. We want profit out of healthcare. And just, you know, take the time to write up and I can help you. You can send it to me. I'll look at it. I'll edit it. Give you any sort of feedback you need. Georgia@wholewashington.org, and submit those to your newspapers, because like Cindy said, that message isn't getting out. People, you hear about the unemployment numbers, right? But the connection isn't being made. All the people who are losing their jobs are going to lose also their healthcare in the time we need our healthcare the most. So if you all could take an hour to write a letter to your editor, that would be awesome.
Georgia, it'd be great if you shared yours and sent that out to everybody so they could see what you wrote.
Sure.
And give an example, but I think that's a great idea to write letters to the editor right now. Share that. You know, this is something that the leads can do right now, is reach out to, and Georgia, if you can connect the leads to each other so they can coordinate contacting people within their area directly, reaching out to them, to maybe even get a subgroup going where you can meet with people in your area about writing letters to the editor. I like the idea about doing something like a car protest. You know, that's not a bad idea, where we do a parade of cars at a certain time and get a big, because in a time like this with no traffic out there, that would draw some attention, especially if we, you know, put a press release about it out, and maybe plan that in advance so we can have something like that happening all over the state, where maybe the leads can help us coordinate doing that in your area, where we line up. And we want to make sure it's substantial, so we want, you know, dozens of cars.
But who's going to see it?
Again, we gotta figure that out. We maybe want to go to neighborhoods and, you know, have people maybe put signs in their window. I don't know. It definitely needs some more discussion, but I think some type of visual type of thing that can be recorded and played over, because we may not get as big an audience while we're doing it, but we could get a huge audience if we got it to go viral. And got some good footage of it, or we got people in their houses, you know, out in front holding up signs as we're going by. I don't know. It's just an idea that I think Amber brought that up, right, Amber? So maybe we can talk further about that and see how that might develop. And maybe
Yeah,
it's not the time.
You guys, If any of you guys saw the Jimmy Dore show this weekend that showed the LA rent protests, they not only went around City Hall with like megaphones in their cars and signs on their cars and in the windows, and then they went around City Hall, and then they went around the mayor's house. They went to his address and honked and made noise for hours. And I don't care how small a town you're in, that makes a big impression. And I've been doing this kind of activism with Moms Across America and March Against Monsanto for years. And it's bold, it's radical, it can have repercussions, but it's the only way to get noticed.
I do concur with in the neighborhoods. When I was a child, my mom was part of an organization that would go to the houses of slumlords and protest slumlords in fancy neighborhoods, and they get embarrassed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And our electeds are slumlords.
Yeah. And the faster, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. So that might be an action if some people are interested in helping, you know, pull that together and helping coordinate, then we could do that. Obviously, you know, doing it in our cars and social distancing, but we could encourage people to come out on their porches and hold up signs or make noise. We could pick a day and a time, and just, you know, even if we got people to just go out on their porches at a certain time, you know, like they did for the healthcare providers. But for
I just want to make a quick mental note of that, just so everybody knows that that has been a long-standing opposition protest piece, to make noise on your porch with pots and pans, and it's literally been co-opted by the certain scenario that's happening now.
By who? I'm sorry, what scenario?
By the COVID scenario of like, let's make noise in solidarity.
Oh yeah, I see.
It's always been a let's make noise in opposition of the government, and for time immemorial. So just be aware of that. I mean, participate, but be participatory in the awareness of that it has a different meaning that's been recognized for centuries.
Well, it could be something other symbolic, some other symbol that somebody like ties a colored ribbon around their post or so. I don't know. Let's just brainstorm some ideas and come up with something that feels inclusive. It feels like impactful. We can film it and get some media from it, or at least play it back. So those are the kind of things we might want to consider when we're thinking of what we might want to do for an action during this, because we are limited, but there are things we can do.
And I happen to say that we do have some avenues of great social media awareness and actions that can be very helpful with a large reach in this time.
One thing that Masha and I have talked about, and we want to develop it a little bit more, is we're going to have some informational sessions, some online webinars with experts in the medical field and working on healthcare issues, and try to make it more public, like come in here, so-and-so speak about what's going on, and we're gonna tie it into universal healthcare. So we're gonna be lining up some people. I think the first one's going to be Cindy Jacobs, who's also on our board of directors, but she's very knowledgeable. Those of you who don't know her, she's a nurse, a registered nurse, but she's also an attorney. So she does a lot of legal stuff and advocacy around healthcare and medical rights and things like that. So she's going to be one of the first people that we bring in, but we're hoping to get some name folks too that might bring in a bigger audience. And if you have ideas for or connections to people, because we wanted not just the circle that we always get, we need to broaden it a little bit. So we're looking at some people that might be different, or a name, or, you know, a celebrity even, you know, if you know somebody, just pull out your Rolodex. Well, nobody has a Rolodex anymore. Electronic kind. So at this point, we just have a few minutes left. I just kind of want to open it up for anybody else that have any other. I didn't have anything else to bring up tonight. We're still moving forward. you know, we're just kind of waiting this out. Georgia, did you want to add anything? I don't have anything else.
Yeah, you know, I had made several comments and I realized I made them all to people in the waiting room, which is no one in here. So I just point out that I did put my letter to the editor as a Google Doc link in the comments. If anybody doesn't have a chance to get that from the comments, I will also put it in the Facebook event. Or if you don't get it that way, I can share it the other way you want. Just send me a direct message. Also, I think it was Joanne Fleming from Spokane, Eastern Washington, representing tonight, said that another great idea is to put big signs on your car. And I do actually have a big sign on my car made by Holly Ellen, who's our treasurer, and she would be happy to make more of those if you want a big sign for your car. I have her email address. I put it in the chat. Again, if you want a sign and you don't get the email address from the chat, just let me know. I will send you her email address, and she's like more than happy to get you one of those for your car. I think that the idea of doing like the cars honking or yelling from your balcony, those are all great. But I think that if you can get a letter to the editor published, that's a way. All of us are sitting at home looking at the news, the newspapers that we haven't been reading for years, browsing websites that we haven't really been looking at very often. So if we can get articles published in newspapers, I think that would go a long way too. So if you can take the time to wrap something up, and again, I'm more than happy to help you with that.
And since you're not driving around much, you could put a sign in your window, you know, like just healthcare for all, whole Washington, or even just a homemade sign that just says universal healthcare for all, or something like that to put in your window, because something like that, or something that just has some big letters that people can read from afar. Homemade ones go really. One thing I know about campaigning, homemade signs mean a lot. So, you know, even if you can just with, you know, a Sharpie and some cardboard, make up a sign and put it in your window, go ahead and do that. Just put out the message, you know, healthcare for all. I think this is the time, you know, we just need to spread that message as much as possible.
I was just going to say, I have a big media list. If somebody doesn't know what organizations to contact in their district, I have a statewide media list that I've compiled.
Great, great. We'll need to use that at some point, especially in getting some press releases out and things like that. And for letters to the editor, that'd be good to find out who's taking letters to the editor. But it would be nice to get those letters all over the state and every local paper around the state, them talking about it. Like I said before, I'm not seeing enough about universal health care. I'm not seeing anything really out there about all these people losing their health insurance when they lose their job. And yeah, maybe they haven't lost it yet, but they will in the next few weeks. And then what happens? Then you end up going from 30 million uninsured in the country to basically tripling or quadrupling that number overnight. So that is a huge issue that we can really push for. And I think people that may have not have supported universal health care before, now that they're out of a job and have lost their health care, maybe now they're ready to hear that message more than ever. And those are the people we need to reach out for. You know, the ones like us on the phone, you know, we're preaching to the choir. We need to reach beyond our own circles out to people that maybe we wouldn't normally talk to about this, and try to bring them on board to grow our numbers. Because as soon as, like any movement, a sustained movement, if you have at least, it's about only 3%. If you have 3% of the population working on a movement in a sustained way, you'll make it happen. And so that's what you're thinking about doing, growing our numbers. Because with everything we do, we got to think about growing our numbers, always be recruiting, building that support so we can grow that sustained movement. So then it's impossible for it to not happen.
I did have a thought. We can either go about it politely or by guerrilla. We can do stencils or posters that we hang with paste paint, or paste, I don't know, and we can slap those up on the wood of shuttered businesses. So we can either ask the business if they'd be okay with it, or we can just do it.
Yeah,
and
I think that's an idea, but just don't use whole Washington's name, like Universal Healthcare Now or something generic. Since we are C4, we are an organization that could be sued.
Yeah, we could be held liable for that. She's right. So we wouldn't put whole Washington, but you could put, hashtag like universal healthcare or healthcare for all, those more generic messages without calling us out, so we don't get,
Well, then I'll ask permission. And if they say yes, I'll use whole Washington.
Yes, if they ask permission, yes. But any illegal stuff, leave her name off.
Right.
We don't have enough money as it is, right? We don't need to be sued, right?
Ooh, we can't share this this lead meeting on the internet. Someone's gonna find like, oh, they're planning illegal activities.
No, we're not planning any illegal activity. We are advocating not to do any illegal activity. Whole Washington does not advocate for any illegal activity. Hope that's enough. Did I say enough there? I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, I did lead with getting permission.
Yes, getting permission to put something on somebody's business is perfectly acceptable, but not without their permission. We do not advocate for that.
So there's a couple things that we're wanting to do, like the pledge to sign, the happy hour to call the governor. I really like the daytime protests with the cars. But for any of these things to have a real impact, we're going to have more than just like 14 people participating. So I was wondering if it's time to start incorporating those who already support us, that is our volunteers, and have leads start holding meetings with people in their area, like via Zoom. And some of us might be uncomfortable doing something like that, so creating some videos about how to lead a meeting, or I just think we need to start mobilizing our volunteers, getting involved.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I think what we need to do, Georgia has a list of people that have signed up for leads and has coordinated, I think, some people together already. Like I know some of the King County people have already met. But we would like to get lists to you of the volunteers in your area. And Georgia, you can help with that and getting them a spreadsheet of the leads in their area so they can actually begin to follow up.
Yeah, if you want to lead meetings in your specific area, just send me a direct message and I will get you those lists. Sean Kavanaugh, our access to our Action Network. But I can also, if that's above your pay grade, I can just send you like a CSV file, an Excel spreadsheet of anybody who's signed up in your area. And you can contact them via phone, email, whatever you're comfortable with. Just let me know what you want to do.
And yeah, we can help you draft emails too. We have a couple people that are volunteers, Jen and others. We can help draft emails for you to send to your leads to say, here's some action items that you can work on. We want to get final feedback on the pledge, so give any feedback to Georgia on that form before we send that out on a mass level, but we will be promoting that pledge form pretty darn soon. We have a couple different ones. We have for the volunteers, we have the pledge to gather signatures, which is still good. So we may not be doing that exactly, but we still want to build that up because we want those pledge signatures to keep building for next year. And then we also want to be able to, what was the other thing I forgot I was going to say? Forgot what I was going to say. Okay. never mind. So yes, let's, Georgia, we'll get those lists to you. We can help work on promotional emails with you for that. Get you all the links to everything, but give her any feedback you want on that pledge form. Anything else before we start wrapping it up for the night? We're almost at 8 o'clock. And I do want to acknowledge a couple more people joined us. I believe it was Melissa, and I know Joanne came in late. We did get to hear from her, but welcome, Melissa, because I know you just came on. Leah, you had your hand up? Go ahead.
So I have a question. As far as the signature sheets, how much money do we need to still be raising for that?
Georgia, what did we spend what did you spend on 1,600 for signature petitions?
It was about $15,000, and I estimate it would probably be more this year just because it's 2 years later and the petition's a little bit bigger than it was last time.
And we don't have to get them all at once, but ultimately, you know, we may need to spend at least 5,000 up front and then another 5,000. So if we break it up into like 4 chunks over the course of the campaign. And right now we do have enough money for petitions in there because since Masha has decided to be a volunteer, we're not paying staff at all right now. And so we're trying to build our funds rather than depleting it. We're trying to build that up right now. So if we do, especially this year, if we're able to collect, then we'll have at least money for petitions that we can get going.
So should we be asking people to donate money for it?
Still, that's another thing we definitely need. I mean, with any campaign, fundraising is just always a part of it because you just can't run a campaign without some money. You need some money.
Thank you.
We don't need $1 million, but $250,000 would be good.
That'd be great.
I'd be thrilled if we had $250,000, but you know, that's possible. It's doable. We may not be able to get it all up front, but over the course of a campaign, especially as you become more successful, then people, it's so funny how fundraising works. As soon as people see that you're going to be successful, then they want to give you money. And I'm like, you know, give it to us up front, not wait till the end, you know, but that's just the way how it works. So I gotta kind of wrap it up. I actually have another meeting at 8 o'clock I gotta run into. So any final thoughts or questions for before we wrap it up for tonight? Georgia, contact her if you want to get some lists going. And then we will still plan to meet every 2 weeks for the time being until things change.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Christina. She made these amazing red berets that are on sale on our website, wholewashington.org. So if you want to support the campaign, and also Laura Fielding, Red Berets Medicare for All, these are available on our website right now.
Great. Thanks, Georgia. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the call. We'll see you later.
Ciao.
Yeah, goodbye. Thank you.